Saw what one man can do to another. Put them in shackles, handle them like they were cows, cattle. I knew this was wrong. But as President of the United States, who passes the laws here in this country of ours? Not the President. Congress does. I was pretty much strapped. So I came up with the Emancipation Proclamation. But I think it was Stanton who suggested, Mr. Lincoln, do not submit this until after we have a victory. Then it would not look like a last-minute desperation move. So I acknowledged that that was a good idea. After the Battle of Antietam, which was pretty much a draw, but we pushed old Lee back home again down south, I thought it would be a grand idea. Now, what did the Emancipation Proclamation actually do? You may hear some rumors that it didn't free any slaves at all. Boulder that. Don't listen to that. It most certainly did. Did it make slavery illegal? No, it did not. Did it free the slaves in the border states? Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, Kentucky? No, it did not. Did it free the slaves in the North? No, it did not. You're probably saying, well, the North was slave-free already. Yes, but don't tell anybody. There were 1 million slaves up north. They were in the houses, they were in the factories, they were on the smaller farms. There was 1 million slaves up north. So, what did it actually do? Well, down south in the rebellious states, it freed the slaves there. Well, is the South going to listen to that because they were in rebellion? No, but it gave hope to those that were enslaved, that if they were to leave their masters and escape and come over to the Union lines, that they would be immediately free forever. What an inspiration is that. And down south in the southern states, the territories that we had control of, at least 50,000 slaves were immediately and forever free. It also opened up that the past slave could work or could be one of the Union, in the Union Army. Not necessarily as a firearm-bearing soldier, but he could definitely help with doing work that would relieve the soldiers so that they could actually fight. So I believe it was a good measure. I stand on it now, and I will always stand on it. But as you know, when this war ever gets over, it will be null and void because it was a war measure. So we start pushing for the 13th Amendment back in 1862. So things are looking better, I hope. But that was the challenge during the early part of 1863. But we have another challenge. I need a victory. The press is against me, except for Special Correspondent Peterson. Where is that guy? He's from the Harper Weekly. Check him out. He gives an honest report. The press is against me. The people up north, they're ready to give in to the Southern demands. The South has their own leader. I am not a very popular president. But in early July, besides the one victory I had, we actually had 2 victories. One along the Mississippi and another one up in Union territory. Following that battle and the horrendous outcome of it, 53,000 casualties outside a small town of about 1,500 people. They were overwhelmed. They called for their governor of that state to come down and see for himself. Governor Curtin went down and he said, what happened here today or this week must be remembered for generations to come. So 3 months later, they wanted to have a dedication in one of the first national soldier cemeteries pertaining to this war. There's special correspondent Mr. Peterson. Have I got good reviews? Oh, thank you, thank you. I just started talking bad about you, but before that. Don't worry about it. Okay. So, the day before, I boarded a train. Upon arriving and settling at the Will's house, I took a walk at sunset to gather my thoughts for the events of tomorrow. When I think of all the sacrifices of life given and those yet to be offered before this dreadful war is over, my heart is like lead within me, and I feel at times like hiding in deep darkness. You say I have gazed long into the eyes of grieving mothers. I have wept with widows. I have held tight the hands of dying soldiers. When will all of this end? The nation is asking me this question. I don't have an answer. But I've always desired to conduct the affairs of this administration to the best of my ability. And if at the end I have lost every other friend on earth, I shall at least have one friend left. And that friend is down inside me. So here we are. Following a procession of over 1,000 soldiers, we have entered Evergreen Cemetery, where I am now standing here before you on this speaker's platform. And after following Edward Everett's 2-hour description of this battle here, what could I possibly add? How can I relate that this was for the right reason? This was for freedom. This was to preserve the Union. What words do I utter? What letters do I write? What address do I speak? Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We're met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Thank you all for being are honored that you are here.
We did have the discussion.